I just finished reading The Crystal Cave. The Crystal Cave is written by Mary Stewart, and it is basically a story about Merlin of the Arthurian legend. In fact, it even says here, book 1 of the Arthurian legend. It was written copyright 1970, so it's an older book. It was recommended by my mom, who had read it when she was in high school, I think she said, and she just remembered really loving it. So I just went to the library and saw it and thought, hey, why not? I'll give it a try. It is really good. So I'm gonna go through my whole little list of things that, you know, I made for this. Let me see. Okay, so like I said, it is called The Crystal Cave. It is book 1 in the saga. I think there are maybe 4, if I'm correct. 4. The Crystal Caves, The Hollow Hills, The Last Enchantment, and The Wicked Day. So this is just book 1. Fiction goes off of Arthur. I was gonna read the back of it, but there is a little bit of language, and since I know at least my little sister watches these, I'm not gonna read it word for word. But it basically just says, born the illegitimate son of a Welsh princess, Myrddin Emrys, or as he would later be known, Merlin, leads a perilous childhood haunted by portents and visions. But destiny has great plans for this no-man's son, taking him from prophesying before the High King Vortigern to the crowning of Uther Pendragon and the conception of Arthur, king for once and always. So it's not like a super great summary, I think, of the book. It kind of pulls out really random stuff. But if I were to give you a summary, it's basically Merlin's life, kind of starting when he was a young child, about 6 years old, and then going till he's in his mid-20s. I think 25 or 26 is when it ends. So it's actually really cool. Overall, my rating is probably 5 out of 8 stars. There are a couple of things I want to talk about I didn't really like about it, but overall I did enjoy reading it a lot, actually. So I guess we'll just start off with basics. So how long it took me to read. It was a very fast-moving book. It was definitely one of those where like every single chapter I didn't feel like I could stop, and so it was really hard to find a good stopping place that didn't make me like anxious, you know, about knowing the rest of the story. So that is one thing. When I kind of started reading it, it kind of gave me the feel of like Ranger's Apprentice, if you've ever read those books. Like the storyline was, I don't know, I don't want to say similar, but reminded me of it a little bit. It's pretty easy read considering it's older. You know, it does kind of have that older-ish feel. It's pretty descriptive and stuff like that. I didn't ever feel like it was that hard to read. I got it on, I think, a Thursday afternoon and probably spent like the whole weekend reading it, and then had about 20 pages left that I kind of put off, which I'll say a little bit about later. First of all, I do want to say about Arthurian legend that I know a lot about it. I took a class in college that was medieval British literature for a whole semester, and basically it was just about King Arthur. I read a lot of books about Arthur, so I thought I would just share those with you. Le Morte d'Arthur, which is like the classic Arthur story. The Lancelot Grail Reader. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which isn't exactly about Arthur, but it's related. J.R.R. Tolkien's The Fall of Arthur. To be fair, I didn't read all, like every word of all of these. All that to say, I know a lot about Arthur. So I was excited to read this because it's always fun to see another version. What I loved is the different take on Merlin's, like, I mean, it's basically his origin story. I think just because in most of the books that I've read and most of the stories, he is that old, elderly, wizardly mentor character. This kind of gave it a little bit more depth into like his actual birth and all of his growing up and how he became the character everybody is more familiar with. So in that aspect, I loved the way she developed his character. So there were several things I liked and disliked about this book, and what I kind of found was that a lot of the pros were also the cons at the same time. Like the things that I liked were also the things I didn't like. I don't know. Like I said, it is descriptive, and I felt like it moved really fast most of the time. But then there would be those moments, there'd be paragraphs descriptive of, you know, the landscape or the situation, whatever, that got a little slow. On the one side, it's a pro because those kinds of paragraphs and stuff really help to obviously create the environment for the story, and a lot of times there's really important information in there that just adds depth to it, really. But it also, like I said, is really slow. And so there were times where I found myself like reading a paragraph and just wanting, like, I could see dialogue, you know, on the next page, and I'm like, oh, I just want to see what's gonna happen. Why? I don't care what the cliffs looked like or the way the waves rushed up onto the rocks. Like, don't need that much description. That was one thing. That was pro and a con at the same time. The other one is a little bit more specific, and there are a lot of people who die in this book. Like, a lot of people, which is kind of expected in an Arthurian legend, especially because of lots of battles and wars and that kind of stuff going on. And it's not the deaths that get me wrong, it's just kind of the way you feel. So there's a lot of people that die, and I felt like the way people died was very like anticlimactic. There was one where it was just like, and he talked to him, and then the next sentence it was like, and then he left and never saw him again, and the guy died in this battle or whatever. And you're like, oh, well, okay. You didn't have enough time to feel sad about it, which I liked, because you didn't feel like, I don't know, because so many people died, it would have really sucked if you tried to get attached to them all and you really didn't. So it didn't make it hurt as much, and you kind of just kept going with the story. But on this other hand, like, you want to be able to connect to those characters and like them enough that it's sad when they die. Like, and it's kind of the way it's written, because it's from Merlin's, he's, you know, old, and he's basically telling his story, and so it's kind of his perspective 70 years later or whatever. So you do get that feel that it's very, like, he's farther removed from the situation, so it's not as, like, emotional. So those are just a few of the pro and cons, just I kind of noticed as I was reading. Favorite character? You know, everyone's would think it'd be Merlin. I do love him, you know, you kind of have to. He's a protagonist. If you didn't like him, you really hate the book. But my favorite character is Ambrosius, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I like the characters that have good character. I mean, throughout the book, he's smart, he's brilliant, but he's also very kind, and I don't know, he's just awesome. Just one of those people who's awesome. So his favorite character is definitely Uther Pendragon, for sure. Like, 100% the worst. And there was like a moment in there when I was reading it where I'm like, you know, because first he's presented as a bad guy, and then not necessarily a bad guy, but like, you know, just you just don't really like him. And then there's kind of a point where he kind of starts redeeming himself, and you kind of start seeing, you know, he's maturing and his character is a little bit more likable just in general, and then totally blows it, man. Totally blows it. Which, if you know Arthur Legend, you probably know what I'm talking about, but we'll get to that at the ending. Who did I relate to? I thought it was kind of funny. Merlin, one of his characteristics is he's very much kind of, I guess you could say, a loner. Throughout, even as he was growing up, you know, the very first chapters, he spends a lot of time by himself, and that's kind of the way he likes it. Kind of a fly on the wall, and I definitely feel like I related to him. Like, at one point where he's like, I just want to go live in the cave, like the crystal cave, you know, he just wants to go live there. I'm like, yes. I feel like all the time, I'm like, why can't I just live in a cave by myself, middle of the woods? So I related to that, which might be really sad, but I was like kind of jealous a little bit of that. A little bit. A little bit. Alternative title. I don't have a really great alternative title, but I will say about the title that it's kind of like you understand why it's called the Crystal Cave when you're reading it, but it's also kind of like you thought that the cave would be more important in the story because it is the title, but it doesn't have that big of a role. Like, I just felt like, I don't know, I mean, I understand, I see why she did it and the role that the Crystal Cave plays in the story, blah blah blah, but it kind of felt like to me, you know, the book where the red fern grows, and it's like one scene at the very end, there's like the red fern, and it like basically has nothing to do with the story, and you're just like, why would you title it that? What? I mean, the Crystal Cave is a cool name, but I think I did, just because of the title, expect it to be a little bit more focused on it, or play a more important, bigger role than it did. I don't know. I guess you can judge that if you want. That's just my opinion. My favorite quote, and this one is similar to the one in my last video where it's like a sentence, like one sentence, but you have to have the whole paragraph to understand the meaning of it because of the context. So I'm just gonna read it to you. As context for this, Merlin is just out on a ride in the woods on his horse by himself, as one does, and he's come to a fork in the road. This is what it starts. The pony turned decisively to the left, this being downhill. I would have let him go, but at that moment a bird flew low across the path in front of me, left to right, and vanished beyond the trees. Sharp wings, a flash of rust and slate blue, the fierce dark eye and curved beak of a merlin. For no reason, and this is the sentence that is my favorite. For no reason, except that this was better than no reason, I turned the pony's head after it and dug my heels in. And it's that part, the for no reason except that there was no better reason. And I feel like that kind of happens sometimes, like, which way should I go? Oh, a bird went that way, it's a sign. I went this way for no reason except for that there was no better reason than the fact that the bird went that way. I don't know, I just thought that was cool. I like that. I related to that on a personal level. Favorite scene? So throughout the story, one of the big plot things is, like it says, he's a no man's kid. He doesn't know who his dad is. He left when he was a kid and his mom doesn't talk about it. So it's kind of this thing throughout the story. It's like he keeps thinking people are his dad. No, that's not. No, it's not. Who is it? Oh, we don't know. So my favorite scene would be if perchance it happens that he does meet his father in the book. That would probably be my favorite scene. I'm not confirming or denying that it happens, but if it did, that would be my favorite scene. Also, possibly any of the times he had met his dad previously and didn't realize it was his dad. That would possibly also be my favorite scene. If, like I said, it happens. Which maybe, or maybe not. Okay, and now the ending. The ending is where this book loses all of its stars. Up until, seriously, like I said, like the 20 pages, I couldn't stop reading it. Like every chance I got, I was read. I was reading in the car, on stoplights, because I get sick when I read in the car, which is super stupid. But I literally carried it, and if we stopped, even at a light, I would pull it out and read it, a few sentences. Like, it was that bad. And then I got to that part, and I just didn't want to read it. Like, I just knew. I knew, because I know Arthurian legend, and I know how it ends, and I didn't like the way it happened. And I think what bothered me the most was that Merlin did something that was very, like, out of his character. And that's what made me mad. Merlin does something that's very, I mean, it sucks. He lies, he betrays, he cheats, and because of the decisions he makes, a lot of people die. And it makes me really mad. And, like, you know, I mean, it's the legend, so what else can she do, right? But you created this character that's so special and unique, and what I liked so much is that you're reading this and you don't really know what's happening, because she takes the legend but then she adds so much more to it, so it's never like you know what's gonna happen, except for right at the end. I just knew it was gonna be exactly like the stories, and not exactly, a little bit. I mean, she changes it but still keeps the bad part of it. What? I mean, I guess the whole thing is that throughout the story, right, Merlin is the special kid who gets visions from the gods. It's unclear throughout the story, and so he basically is like, I don't make decisions for myself, the god just does whatever through me. And I hate that like, okay, the god says that you need to do this, so it's okay to lie and to cheat and to be a super loser. Okay, like, make your own decisions, dude. I hated it so much that, like, you lose faith, you lose respect in him as a character. Like, you can't expect him to do the right thing anymore, so then why would you want to keep reading books where he's a loser, you know? That's kind of where I am right now. I haven't decided if I'm gonna read the next one. Like, I don't really want to at this point. They can't really redeem what happened because she justified it in the book. If you read it, you'd understand. If you know Arthurian legend, you probably also understand what I'm talking about with Uther and Igraine and it ain't right. I mean, overall, that's what makes it so sad, is that I loved it so much and I was enjoying it so much, and then it came to this last few chapters and it was just so depressing. So we'll see. I'm definitely gonna probably consider reading the next one. Kinda lame. I really liked it too. Why do you do that? Why do you write really good books? Why do others do that? Why do they write really good books and then ruin the endings, like, on purpose? It's like they just don't want us to be happy. If I ever wrote a book, the ending would be like perfect ending. The story would be like about making the perfect ending. So overall, I definitely would probably recommend this. I would give warning about the ending and just say, hey, I mean, it's Arthurian legend, so if you like the stories, I mean, I understand why it happened. That is one of the cool things, is that at the end of the book, it includes the legends that she pulled from. So it was cool to read through those, and you kind of could see where everything came from. And I understand it, I do, I just don't like it. I just don't like it. So that's it. That's my review of the Crystal Cave. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.